Iron Lung is the indie mega hit that's leaving audiences terrified, impressed, and confused. The film gives you more questions than it answers. A lot of people think that this is a flaw with the film, but they're all dumb, stupid, and wrong. The confusion and the lack of information is intentional. We are purposefully locked in Simon's narrow point of view. The only time we ever see outside the submarine, it's through a tiny, blurry window.
Wait, you wanted to see out the window? Weird.
Iron Lung is fundamentally based on this lack of context. The only way to even see outside the sub is to take a static X-ray of whatever's in front of you. The only way you know where to go is to use trigonometry to plot your course and to pray as you press forward. Simon doesn't know what he's doing or what's happening. Simon's been lied to and put in a place he doesn't understand. And we're in the same sub as him, experiencing the same dismay and confusion that he does. The blindness we have to the outside world makes every little hint feel groundbreaking. Every unexplored inch of the sub feels important. But what if, like Simon, you hunger to understand a world that isn't made for you to understand it? What if you want to know what Iron Lung is really all about? The world of Iron Lung is an oxymoron, because there are no worlds. There are no stars. They all vanished quietly in the night. All that remains of these things are illusions, light from centuries ago that hasn't caught up with reality. The blood-filled moons and the few ships and space stations that avoided the quiet rapture is all that's left. We know from flashbacks Simon grew up in this world. He was born in a generation where all this had already happened. This lonely, hopeless reality is all he's ever known. Forced to obey leaders put in power by a system that no longer exists. He never had a choice in any of this, not in his life before, and not when they set him into a death trap. The few decisions he was able to make for himself are the reasons he's in the Iron Lung. Simon was involved with a terrorist attack that killed dozens of people. While he didn't support the attack and he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, he didn't really try to stop it either. He was taking the easy way out. He was trying to avoid conflict. But ironically, this backfired. By knowing about the terrorist attack and not helping either side, he was seen as a traitor by both. It's unclear what the terrorist attack was specifically about, but if I were to guess, it was for freedom. Freedom to live their last days unrestrained. Freedom from the responsibility of humanity's future. Freedom from building a false hope. Throughout the film, Simon has various visions. He hears voices that aren't there and sees things that aren't real. But how much of this is real and how much of this is entirely imagined is left intentionally vague. There's clues that it isn't real: the high heat, the depleting oxygen, the rising CO2 level. But there's also the clues that it's more real than it seems. The voices having knowledge that seems impossible. The oxygen level slowly rising, and him surviving far longer than he should be able to. I think these visions are half real. I don't think the voice he hears is really there, and I don't think what he sees is really there. But there's definitely something making him see it. This could all be from the giant sea creature we catch glimpses of. But personally, I think the sea creature is just a small part of something much larger, like a white blood cell in a body. The blood seems to be some kind of superorganism, one living being made from the collection of billions. We see how consuming the blood has strange mind-altering effects. It makes the victims happy to join in, to kill themselves, to become a part of the superorganism. We already know the blood is human blood, and my guess is that it's the blood from the quiet rapture. All of the victims are now that ocean. We see the blood mutate and partially absorb Simon. It's stripping him for parts, digesting him like a giant living being. So far I've talked about the lore of this world, but the fictional story is only one half of the coin. What is the meaning of Iron Lung? What is it as a movie trying to say? At its core, Iron Lung is about the battle between two ideas, hope and acceptance. Simon and the previous prisoners represent acceptance, while Ava and the people outside conducting the Iron Lung mission represent hope. Ava belongs to a group of survivors called the Consolidation of Iron, and their ultimate goal is for humanity to live on. The Iron Lung is part of a project to try and use the moon's resources to save humanity. It's a long shot at best, but they know it. Simon belongs to a group of survivors from Eden. They think trying to survive is pointless, that it's all already over. Instead, they should focus on making their limited time meaningful. This is best summed up by Simon's line,
I just want to live. Is that so wrong? Why doesn't anybody else want that?
and maybe the people from Eden are right. If our last hope is unreliable submarines built from spare parts, operated by disobedient inmates, maybe it is over. Maybe we should just accept it, live our last days in friendship and meditation, free from the hassle of trying to survive and failing over and over. Or maybe the consolidation of iron is right. Maybe that thin sliver of a chance to make it is worth it. Maybe you'd rather go down swinging. Maybe we have to try, even if we know it's almost impossible. Maybe hope is a good enough reason to push forward. The people of Eden look to a new religion for salvation, using the quiet rapture as the basis for their beliefs. The consolidation of iron thinks that this is just a delusion, built from no evidence and wishful thinking. And they're right, there is no evidence. But is it any more delusional than believing we'll somehow find a way, with no stars, no planets, just hostile living moons that dwarf our abilities? Maybe in this situation a higher power has the same probability of saving us as we do ourselves. Simon alternates between hope and acceptance constantly. He gets ready to accept his fate, and then he sees a shimmer of hope and runs towards it, only for that hope to be crushed over and over. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe if he gave up earlier and accepted his fate, he could have been spared false hope. He would have only had to accept his death once instead of multiple times. But if he never had hope, if he never pushed forward, he wouldn't have gone as far as he did. He never would have discovered the secrets of the blood ocean. He never would have gotten the information that might be critical for humanity's survival. The movie ultimately chooses hope and acceptance. Simon and Ava exchanging names and apologizing to each other is the point where hope and acceptance overcome their differences and come together. Simon accepts that there is no saving him, that it's already over, but he clings onto his actions, giving humanity hope, and the hope that it wasn't for nothing, and that he'll be remembered. His actions giving humanity one last gasp of hope is ultimately what leads to him dying with acceptance. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll enjoy this other video I made about Minecraft ARGs. In fact, I think this video about Minecraft ARGs is honestly way better than the video you just watched. If anything, I think you might have wasted your time watching this video. Sorry about that.